Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Forward. I'm Anna,
And I'm Allie.
and today we have a fun topic for you guys. So, as you guys know, we love to talk about Gen AI. It is one of our favorite topics on the board of things that we discuss. And we want to dive a bit deeper into it, though, right? So, we've talked about basically the how it's utilized, how it's the different terms that go with it, right? It's like all these little small
Mhm.
details. But we do want to dive deeper into various industries because how you apply it can be so cool. I mean, I might also be a bit biased. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to this, but I think it's really cool. So we're going to be jumping into some different use cases today, and specifically for the retail sector, because I think, as we all know, it's everywhere these days. But retail has really taken a liking to it, and I can't blame them. A lot of cool stuff you can do. So what we'd like to do is kind of take you guys through a little bit of a walk through these various use cases per function, and then also maybe talk about some different applications we're seeing in the real world. So we'll start, I think, with the lowest fruit, the lowest hanging fruit, where we see it the most often. So marketing, we love her, we cherish her. And I'm going to pass it over to Allie. She'll walk you guys through some different use cases, how she's seeing it being utilized, and then we'll go from there. So Allie, please go ahead.
Yes, so I think marketing is something that, although you might not realize it, Gen AI is aiding every single piece of media you're probably seeing on your TV and your phones and on billboards and whatever, whether that's from kind of generating the actual images or text that you see, or behind the scenes, analyzing data from, customer segmentation, figuring out what type of promotions go for certain types of groups, even assessing kind of where people are clicking on a website. If someone keeps going into a certain product and they're not buying it, Gen AI can recognize that, curate a nice little coupon promotion or something, send it to your email to entice you to want to get that, product. So some really cool things going on there. I think kind of the basic one that you see literally on a day to day, I know I personally use it, are these chatbots and the virtual
Mm.
assistants. I mean, I feel like every website, whether it's super highly developed and useful or just a waste of time and space, they've got some version of it. And the cool ones, you're able to just prompt it anything. It's almost like a chat GPT where you put it in, it connects to their LLMs, it connects to whatever data sources, it's working as an agent, and it's thinking about what you're asking and giving you a thought out productive answer. I know the other day we were talking about Bark, so the
Mm-hmm.
Bark Box company for the dog toys and stuff like that, and we were poking around their website because me and Anna are both dog lovers. We both have them, love them, our whole heart. Um, and I looked at their chatbot, and I'm always curious. I'm always checking them out because, again, some people, there's preset questions that you can press on. You can't really type in what you're really looking for. But Bark, I have to admit, I was thoroughly impressed. You can type in something, anything you want. I typed in, give me recommendations for dogs that are tough chewers, that are destructive chewers, and it spit back something about tough chewers and destructive chewers, and it was able to give me some customized product recommendations. So really happy to see that, and I think that plays into, I now think of that when I think of a nice developed chatbot. I think of Bark, which resonated with me, and I can tell you I can think off the top of my head of a few where I went in there. I had a, inquiry about something, and that chatbot just simply wasn't able to do it, which is why it's so important to, if you're going to do this implementation, to take the time to think about it and see its effects on your customer base.
That's such a good point. I mean, I know that a lot of people, whenever they use chatbots, they get so frustrated. They're like, no, I want a live agent. I want a live agent. But listen, if you build out your chatbot correctly, if you cover
100%.
your bases, like you really don't need to worry about those complaints anymore, right? And I mean, you save so much time. You save the time of your team members. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
really taking it and being diligent with it and thorough can make such a huge difference. The utilization of chatbots, I completely agree there. Mark was very cool. I did quite enjoy that. And Mars does too. My dog does too. He's a big fan. Wanted to pop back too on this whole customer segmentation piece you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. So kind of like creating tailored promotions and recommendations based on the customer data, right? I think that's so cool. And like one application I can kind of see for that is on the retail sector, especially. So like say for example, I came from a huge college town, right? Like my school, we loved football, we loved it all. And if I think about it, like say for example, you're selling jerseys or you're selling shirts or whatever you want to call it, but you know that you're selling to college students. You
Mm-hmm.
run certain campaigns for them or certain promotions saying like, hey, listen, buy two, get one free or buy one, get two free. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
listen, college kids, love them, but they're broke, right? And so
Yep.
this way too, you're able to kind of cater to your audience in a much more honed in manner versus what just like a generic campaign could have been, right? It's
Yeah.
just so cool to see what it can kind of do for organizations, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that kind of reminds me of a conversation I was having with a friend of mine the other night who we always talk about smartphones or tablets or whatever listening to us.
Mm.
But now that we're talking about it, I think that's Gen AI. I think it's
Yeah.
we're typing in certain things. It's analyzing what we're clicking on, what we're researching, what we're liking on Instagram and TikTok, and
Mm-hmm.
we like something and it's got a product in it or it's a product being promoted. That's why we're seeing it all over the place. You
Yeah.
know, being able to see what your customer base is doing, how they're even speaking about your product and reviews and things of that nature. It makes me think of Amazon. And what they're doing so well is they're using that Gen AI to cater to those recommendations you see on the side. When you click on a black shirt and you scroll down, it'll give you 15 more black shirts that are slightly different prices sold everywhere. And you're like, wow, like I like that one a little better. And the coolest feature that I think I always look into is the reviews. I'm a
Mm.
big reviews girl. I like to see that 4.5 rating, what docked it that half a star.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's millions upon millions of reviews, and I just don't have enough time in the day to get through all that. So that little Gen AI virtual assistant at the top that analyzes all of the language and the tones and the speech of all the reviews, and it summarizes it right there for me. So it might be, this candle people really liked, it smelled amazing. The only fault that, consumers saw in it was that it was, didn't burn very long or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I take that, I read a couple, as long as it, is similar enough to what that virtual assistant, is telling me, I'm
Yeah.
going with it. So that's something I see very often. I'm a big Amazon user, so every time I'm looking to go into a product, I'm relying on that virtual assistant.
That's very true. And I think another cool thing that I can think of, whenever I think of this whole bringing Gen AI into the marketing side of things too, is also this like whole predictive trend analysis, right?
Yeah,
So say, for example, kind of looking at what customer trends are and then adjusting your marketing strategies based on that, right? And so when I think of like certain social media platforms like TikTok or, these bigger ones where trends are coming and going fast and we are
yeah,
turning them out like crazy, right? And so I think about certain organizations, like say, for example, skincare is huge now, right? It's really,
yeah.
really been an influx too since COVID. Like we had time to kind of really take care of ourselves and our skin. And so ever since then, it's been a huge trend. But different things are trendy, right? For a little bit, it's like your face skin, like this skin right here, or like your
Hmm.
lips, or who knows what, right? But say, for example, lip masks, they're trending, right? With Gen AI, you don't have to go in and have somebody specifically create content or like push out content for lip masks for your company because for the next 2 weeks it's going to be trending, right? Gen AI will be doing that for you. It knows,
Hmm.
hey, listen, this is a hot topic right now. People are talking about this here. It's very interesting. Let's start pushing out content based on that with minimal human intervention. I think it's just so cool too, right? It just frees up so much time. Fascinating stuff, really.
No, 100%. I mean, being able to not have someone sit on TikTok all day, see what's trending, what's not, identifying that this one video blew up where someone used this, new lip mask, and Gen AI will do a lot of the work for you as long as
Mm-hmm.
you're there to help guide it and tweak it and make it
Yeah.
your own. It'll identify the trends that are, coming out, becoming popular. It'll predict how much you might need, so demand and forecasting. It'll tell you that, this might be more of a fad than a trend. I wouldn't order, this much, I would order this much. And again, it won't order it for you unless it tells you to. So don't take everything at face value, but you could take things pretty literally when an AI assistant is scouring every piece of information on the internet, and then from there tracking what they're saying about it, tracking the success of it, seeing if it's going to continue if you need to order more products. So it's something where an individual doesn't have to sit down and do that. I mean, how much
Mm.
time would it take for me to go in and say, okay, what is the most recent clothing trend that's going on? Who's talking about it? Why are they talking about it? What's the demographic of the individuals? How do we market to that demographic? Those answers can be solved in a matter of seconds with Gen AI versus if you were to hire an individual to do it, that might take a couple days, couple weeks, maybe even months. Like you never really know. So it's amazing what deployment of an AI, a single AI agent can really do for your company.
No, it's very cool. I totally agree. And I think one thing you mentioned that I think is also very cool for different departments too is this reporting angle, right? And so I do want to highlight some different things in the finance side as well, right? Because marketing, I
Mhm.
think we all know it, we all love it when it comes to retail, but finance also can really benefit from Gen AI, right? So like one thing I think of especially for this year is like these real-time insights, right?
Mhm.
So you can use AI-powered dashboards to track your sales, your expenses, the profitability, and you can also have automated alerts too, right? And so you just save so much time and energy. And one thing that we're doing right now actually is that we're kind of building out this something along these lines here for our client, and they're
Mhm.
able to pop in a question of like, hey, what were my sales for 2024 versus
Yeah.
2023 or whatever, and it kind of churns out this content for them, and it's just so easy, right? And you look at it and you're like, this saves you so much time. It's so cool to see, right? I think it's just so fascinating to kind of see how that plays into the finance side as well, right? And then
Yeah.
also on top of that, sorry, I wanted a little ramble here too. For the finance side, you can also have these more narrative insights, right? So for these
Yeah.
executive summaries for stakeholders, you have these dashboards, you have these reports, but then how do you kind of turn it into understandable, readable insights, right? You want to be
Yeah.
able to look at it presented to stakeholders, presented to higher up people, and say, verbally, here is where we stand. This is the narrative
Yeah.
of what we're looking at when it comes to our financial data. And so this already takes it a step further than just the dashboards, right? There's so much that can kind of go into this.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. I mean, you talk about these reports and these dashboards and all this data, and for any company, especially these large scale companies, there is so much data and these reports are huge. So I think it's so important to be able to quickly identify what's going on in these reports and these numbers and these crazy financial reports that, might not make sense to someone who isn't finance oriented. But if I'm someone who needs that data and those answers, to be able to pop in real quick and do that is going to be so time consuming. And I think what also goes into it is because these reports are so huge, it's easy for things to fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
Like things happen, errors are made, anomalies are come about. So Gen AI could also detect those and save you from huge losses of money, time, expensive, whatever that might be. They're going to be able to flag something that might be irregular in your reports, in your data, in your charts, and flag that prematurely so you can address that issue and keep going. So that's another thing with these massive financial reports, that it's going to be able to assist and just again save you time and efforts in all this, because this all can be extremely time consuming, could be expensive. Again, if something happens on the finance side of things, that's huge. It's not something that you can just brush over and it'll be gone by the next week. That's something that's going to impact the company and might be even detrimental to some of these smaller corporations. So having that Gen AI assistant be able to flag things, analyze things, and get you that information in a timely manner is like super important.
Yeah, the analytical piece is just very interesting too, right? Because you also think about how this can play into various other departments, right? So we just talked about marketing, this whole ability to kind of customize and enhance based on the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
This also plays into finance though too, right? You can have dynamic pricing and promotions on the finance side as well using Gen AI, right? So like optimizing the pricing strategy
Mm-hmm.
based on consumer behavior and economic conditions. That's so cool. It's like say for example, there's a delay in like cargo or something like that overall, right? You're able to readjust your pricing strategy. Or say for example, you have like a ton of a piece of inventory, right? You're able to
Mm-hmm.
readjust, create promotions based on that to kind of free up that space in the inventory as well, but
Mm-hmm.
that reflects in the pricing, right? I think that's so cool.
Yeah, no, agreed. You talk about the inventory as well. It makes me think about like being able to assess what you have and what you don't.
Mm.
Forecasting and demanding what you might need. It's not an overnight thing. It's not like tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and say that I'm going to need 500 t-shirts over the next month. That's something that is decided months and months in advance, and you just need to stay on top of that. So being able to have, your warehouse management run through maybe an agent that assists you in knowing when to replenish stock, or you have too much stock. How do you get rid of that? And that might go back to that pricing. Say right now you have an abundance of red t-shirts. How
Mm.
can we get those out? We don't need them. They're not doing well. Hey,
Mm.
you've had them marked up at $25 a shirt. How about you do a promotion during the month of February for the red color and bring it down to 20, and those sales will go out. So again, being able to integrate these agents and these systems into kind of your everyday tasks. Again, not to say that we implement them and we sit back and relax and don't do anything, but one small thing that it catches can be the start of a huge impact. To be
Mm.
able to assess that, all of a sudden we're going to have a boom in those lip masks that we were talking about earlier. hey, you've only got 10 in stock. And therefore, it's going to take 3 months for us to order them. People are going to be waiting. It's going to be on back order. And by that time, someone's going to discover the next biggest thing and we're going to be off the shelves. So being able to detect that is going to put you ahead of the game and put you ahead of all of your, competitors.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's always been like a really big part for us here at Airtove too. I don't know if you guys remember our first episode that we did where we kind of walked through who we are and like our history. But back a few years ago, we actually released a demand forecasting platform. This is the things that we kind of took into consideration, right? Because we work with so much retail. And that's what this does. Like this forecasting tool takes a look into anything on the inventory side, so replenishments, but also safety stock adjustments too. That's also really huge too, right? It's like you kind of need to have a little bit of a buffer sometimes. And so we took that into account. We took into account any kind of like what if scenarios too, right? So all this cool stuff that we did there. And I think it's really cool to see it also playing out now in today's society as well, how Gen AI is kind of taking over. We had those roots there and it's becoming more and more prevalent nowadays, especially as well, right? And I remember a conversation that I had like a few years back with somebody, and they were talking about this whole route optimization side of things too, right? Like if you are hauling tons and tons of cargo, like say you're a truck driver and like you're pulling this massive load of weight, that burns gas, that takes a longer time, right? And like so you want to optimize your route. And so Gen AI can also help in that as well, right? So optimize the route, take into consideration any kind of traffic delays, any kind of, say, for example, construction work that's being done, right? It can adjust based on that. And that's also a huge time saver. And this goes beyond just like the internal operations too, right? This is for any of those other people that are also involved in delivering and making sure that your customer is satisfied. This is a huge piece right there, right?
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, even if you think of, again, back to Amazon, sometimes you can know to the minute when your order is coming in. And that all has to do with their route optimization, knowing, hey, that this main street is down, you need to take this road to take up time, or you need to, start a little bit earlier in the day in order to get all those in. Like, we don't understand how heavily we rely on these deliveries, whether that's to business to consumer or business to business, procurement. Like being able to know when your shipment's coming in, being able to be transparent with either your manufacturer or your retailer in order to get those on time to fulfill those orders. There's a lot of things that play into like that supply chain aspect that makes this well-oiled machine continue to run. And if one piece of that machine falls short, the whole system gets messed up.
Yeah.
This makes me also think of like a procurement assistant, being able to automate purchase order creations and approvals and price benchmarking, like that all takes so much time to do. And the quicker you get that done and you can put that through and get approved and get the ball rolling, the quicker your product or services are out to your customers at a timely and more convenient manner.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. And I think that like we did hit on some really good ideas here too, but that agentic AI is a huge part of this whole process as well, right? Of Gen AI, this whole journey that some companies go on. And while we did give some examples already, I think it's kind of helpful to say, finger point and say this right here is where agentic AI can be kind of utilized in your company, right? So if we're talking about this whole dynamic pricing agents, that's a great example of agentic AI, right? So basically automatically adjusting product prices in real time. That's agentic, right? That's agentic AI kind of playing a part in an organization, right? Another fun example, again, is this whole customer sentiment and trend analysis, right? So Ali hit on that, so talking about scanning social media, reviews, sales data, that kind of thing to identify emerging trends. Agentic once more. But, Ali, any thoughts from your side on the agentic front?
Same thing that I was going off of before with on the HR side, being able to, autonomous training for, assisting the onboarding process and even, keeping up to date with the latest, trends and keeping your employees up to date. That's all, AI chatbots can help you deliver that personalized learning program, customize it, develop it, implement it. So that's, super important on that side. But yeah, I mean, it really, wherever you can think of something that can be generated and can pull information from different sources, that's an agent. Agents think. They use the information that you give them, the resources you give them, whether that's the internet or your LLM, and you cater the responses, which is what I find so cool about this technology is you come to somebody to custom build an agent for you, and you're going to get exactly what you want. We have clients come to us and say, I've got these pain points. We waste so much time doing this on a day-to-day. How can we fix it? And we're like, let's attach an agent to your, LLM. Let's customize the tone usage, be able to identify what either your clients or your employees are telling it, and be able to identify patterns and trends and what they're asking, and cater. And it continues to learn too. I know we were talking with our team earlier about a recent tool that we implemented for our day-to-day, that the more you use it, the more it learns and knows your speech and your tone and your style of writing. So, I know I'm, again, nerding out a little bit, as we do here at Aerotove, but it's just so interesting to see how far we've come with technology and how much further we have to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's always really fun when the clients come to us and they're like, hey, I really want to do this. This is my idea. I think it'd be so fun to implement. It's so interesting and really helpful to implement too. Can we do it?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10,
why not?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's
do
like
it.
dream as big as you want to, right? Like that's the benefit of custom built too, right? And we can go off on a whole tangent on that as well. Could be a podcast topic, Allie. Let's put that on the notes. But like the whole idea of customization, right? Having something custom built for your organization, that really allows for something like completely catered for your team, for your business, right? And I think that's such a big part of it too. And then if you also think too about like how different businesses, I know that kind of Ali hit on these different ideas of what businesses are doing right now, but on the chatbot side, I think she and I found some really cool examples of what Target is doing. So I don't know if you guys have read about this here yet, but Target basically has created a chatbot to be able to be utilized by their internal team to be able to put in like, hey, a customer is asking about X, Y, and Z product we don't have in stock. What's comparable? And it's able to kind of give the replies back. And that's so cool. And then if you think about Lowe's too, I was reading about how they've basically created chatbots to help their customers, right? So it kind of gives them guidance while they're not only in store, but also browsing. And say, for example, you get home and you're like, oh man, like I want to paint my wall and I want to do this and this and this as well alongside that. It can kind of give you thoughts and insights and give you recommendations too, right? Of like how you can go about this here. And that's so fun as well, right? So it's just such a powerful tool to just save so many pain points for not only internal, but external. It's very, very important there.
I think it also shows just how it's in your everyday life you might not realize. Just the little things that you encounter or utilize, and you might not know that it's backed by AI powered technology. Another one that I've seen recently, I've been keeping up with, is this really cool project that Wendy's is doing over there with their AI staff. It's called Fresh AI, and it's essentially just a drive-through assistant, but it can recognize different languages and tones and recommendations. And if you think about how kind of the fast food industry works, is drive-throughs are half the battle. You either walk in or drive through, and being able to have that convenience of getting someone through at a timely manner, being able to get their food ready and to them and paid and out the door, that's their whole thing. And having people from different countries speaking different languages, people who have different speech impediments and things like that, it's nice to be heard, it's nice to be understood. And these agents at the drive-thru are able to do that. If I'm going to a foreign country and I want to order myself a meal, and to be able to speak in my native language and them understand and get it and be seamless, that's going to resonate with me. I'm going to remember Wendy's, and I'm going to say, you know what, like they think about their customers and they know what we want and they do it. So, super cool project on that end that I just kind of wanted to bring up because I've been following along lately on LinkedIn and those guys over there. So, if you haven't looked into it or you don't see these types of things, I think it's useful to just take a quick search and pay attention in your daily lives of what AI you might be using and you don't even realize.
I totally agree. But I think we've stolen up your guys' time. I think that's all we have for today. We could keep going, but we'll let you guys go for today. Thanks as always so much for tuning in to today's episode. We really appreciate it. And we really enjoy talking about this here too, right? Because not only do we see it for our clients and for those that we're kind of supporting on this front right here, but we also utilize it ourselves, right? And so it's always kind of cool to discuss it a bit further and dive deeper into it. But yeah, be sure to tune in for the next episode. And if you enjoyed it, drop us a like, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts, anything cool you might have seen, right, when it comes to retail and different use cases too. But if you have any questions or topics you want us to go over, don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@solutions.aerotove.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. Anything else, Allie? Are we good to go?
No, I think we're good. I think we'll see everybody in the next episode, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
That's true. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.